Bolivia, a country with a wealth of cultural and ethnic diversity and great potential. Over the last 20 years, this land has witnessed mass celebrations of historic victories, such as the restoration of democracy in 1982, but also times of turmoil and extreme social unrest, as February and October 2003 proved to be. In a country where poverty is still endemic, decision-making must be both right and timely for development. Research must consequently find the answers to people's quality of life and prepare for the future. This has been the understanding of the Strategic Research Program in Bolivia, PIEB, which has achieved significant results in its 10 years of institutional life, promoting new knowledge in areas of strategic importance for Bolivia's development and training new generations of researchers. It has created the conditions and provided spaces for stakeholders from different sectors to meet and discuss how to enhance the impact of research on development. And it has strengthened resource centers and other institutions to make regional research sustainable and autonomous.
Creo que se trata de un aporte fundamental.
I think its contribution is crucial. Firstly, because serious systematic studies in the social sciences are essential in a country like Bolivia. And secondly, because it offers an opportunity to a generation that has not had enough ongoing support to undertake this type of research.
Un respaldo para llevar adelante investigaciones de este tipo.
PIEB is an enormously important institution, hugely relevant to the development of scientific skills in this country for many reasons. I think it is one of the few research programs that has kept up its high quality over time, without lowering its standards, without the usual ups and downs. Founded in 1994, PIEB arose from the shared interests of the General Directorate for International Cooperation at the Netherlands Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and renowned intellectuals in Bolivia's academic community who sought to develop an autonomous program to support socially relevant research, the results of which would contribute to local and national development.
Creo que uno de los logros muy importantes del PIEB fue que había...
I think one of PIEB's most important achievements is the large number of specialized research studies that have had excellent results. They have had an impact on public policies and also on the understanding of particular issues.
Con un impacto en políticas públicas, pero también en la comprensión de asuntos particulares.
At PIEB, professionals committed to Bolivia's development are engaged in an ongoing discussion of its 4 lines of action: research, training, dissemination, and institution building, all aimed at development.
Creo que su principal contribución ha sido...
I think its main contribution has been helping to develop a new way of doing research in this country, particularly autonomous, demand-driven research.
Investigación autónoma, investigación orientada por la demanda.
Water, land, and natural gas are strategically valuable, socially relevant resources. PIEB has therefore promoted research that helps to increase people's knowledge of the problems involved. Pollution in the river Desaguadero, for example, is a study analyzing the effects of the oil spill by the company Transredis in the river Desaguadero. The study showed that an environmental impact audit was needed and paved the way for local farmers to be given compensation. Causachum coca, the small-scale coca farming economy, intentionally ignores the 2 standpoints from which the coca issue has usually been addressed: drug trafficking and drugs, and focuses on the social aspects of coca growing. Experts say that the information in this study will change the course of the coca eradication debate. The Police and Democracy in Bolivia, Institutional Policy Required, is a pioneering piece of research showing that governments have neglected something that is essential for strengthening democracy: citizen security. The inevitable outcome was a deep crisis that underscored how institutional weakness in a body like the police can even place democracy at risk.
Creo que es un momento
I
inmejorable
think now
para
is
que
the
esta
ideal time
investigación
to
pueda
use this
ser
research as the
utilizada
baseline
también
for
como
determining
línea de
institutional
base
reform
para
criteria.
definir criterios de reforma institucional.
The information in this study has been widely used by the media in Bolivia and abroad, and by members of parliament who are currently drafting a law to reform the police. These are just a few of the 107 studies supported by PIEB over the last 10 years, which are focused on socially relevant issues such as indigenous peoples, migration, and productive development. Major changes have taken place in the last decade, none more important than the leading role the regions have taken over from central government. Research could hardly ignore this trend. PIEB has focused on the regions and on the need to see them on a map that clearly shows their characteristics, needs, and proposals. This approach is reflected in the study, The Ongoing Construction of Cruceño Identity, an outstanding historical overview of identity in Santa Cruz, a topical issue in the pro-autonomy discourse in this region. There has always been a lot of talk about identity in every debate, but nobody had produced a study that sought to identify the elements of this identity based on a historical analysis. The research produced new findings, such as the revaluing of mestizo identity in Santa Cruz.
Nosotros somos mestizos, y ese
We are mestizos. That is the truth we have arrived at, and this study pointed out to us. Recognizing the truth of it, we are reaching out to other communities to make them see that we are all mestizos, and we should be proud of our cultural inheritance.
De esa nuestra herencia cultural.
The water war and the events of February and October 2003 showed that civil society is demanding participation. The study, Towards Participatory Democracy, sought to document the demands made by social and popular organizations in the region of Oruro with a view to the Constitutional Assembly. These proposals will contribute to the drafting of the law to convene the Constitutional Assembly, to make it truly representative of the people. Citizens' initiatives take many different forms. One of them, in Cobija, has led to a trinational border integration project involving the municipalities of Acre in Brazil, Madre de Dios in Peru, and Pando in Bolivia, called MAP. This project is now on the government's agenda in all three countries and motivated a research study in Pando. We are publicizing a series of signed agreements that could improve the quality of life in these municipalities, but only if people know about it. The MAP project is one of a kind. It seemed to us a very interesting and useful project, inasmuch as it lays the foundations for what could later become our border policy.
Sienta bases para lo que posteriormente podría ser nuestra política de fronteras.
These important results join those of many other research projects supported by PIEB throughout the country. One of the least studied expressions of Bolivia's extraordinary cultural diversity is the migration patterns of its people. Almost 1.25 million Bolivians live in a department other than the one where they were born. In other words, 15 out of every 100 Bolivians have migrated within their own country. What strategies can Pando use to shape an identity when 32% of the people living there were not born in the department? The study, Internal Migration in Bolivia and its Impact on Development in Pando, confirms that this department has the highest rate of migration in the country. Its migrants come from Tarija, Beni, and Santa Cruz.
Este estudio permitirá a las autoridades establecer lineamientos.
This study will help the authorities to draw up policy guidelines for integrating Bolivian migrants, with the aim of strengthening development based on two sources of employment: the harvesting of natural resources, Brazil nuts and timber, and the development of commerce and crafts.
Y la madera, por una parte, y el desarrollo de actividades comerciales y artesanales.
The study, Comings and Goings, focuses on transnational migration to Argentina, seeing it from a new perspective as a two-way flow. The study shows that groups of people emigrate from Bolivia, but they never totally leave their place of origin. This study has had a great impact in academic circles. One concrete effect has been the creation of an institution dedicated to the study of migration.
El Centro de Estudios Fronterizos busca eso.
The Center for Border Studies is an outcome of the research we did with PIEB. The Center for Border Studies seeks to form strategic alliances to further the study of migration. PIEB research studies have not just led to institutions being set up to give continuity to the study of specific topics, they have also been widely used by different sectors throughout the country, especially in civil society. Indigenous peoples are key actors in Bolivia's social movements. They are demanding the right to obtain land titles, as the study, The Bolivian Lowlands, has shown. They are also demanding respect for their culture and more political and citizen participation. The forgotten indigenous people, Guarani Chirihuanos in Santa Cruz de la Sierra, explains that indigenous people do not lose their identity, even when they are far away from the community they left in search of a better future, though the state pays no attention to them.
Para nosotros es importante.
This study is important for us. Somebody should show concern for the Guarani people and find out how we live in Santa Cruz. We ourselves can't afford to document how we live.
No podemos documentar cómo vivimos.
Evidence that the highland indigenous peoples have kept their culture alive is presented in The Law of the Ayllu, a study that documents the philosophy, values, and practices of community justice. The Ayllus of Tinquipaya, in the poorest part of the country, have used the findings of a PIEB-supported study to draw up their demand for land titles, as well as reclaiming their history. In my opinion, the most significant result has been the possibility of recovering their collective memory and proving that this memory, often thought to be just tales, fables, gossip, or whatever, has historic value.
Chismes, qué sé yo, tenía un valor histórico y era necesario recurrir a ella para entender ese proceso histórico.
Nosotros estamos queriendo recuperar y la gente también.
Yes, it has become important. Our people are starting to read it and are now realizing what our ancestors were like, how they were organized and everything. Indigenous people, policymakers, and social leaders have used their results of PIEB studies to inform themselves and as inputs for their negotiations with the state. Since 1990, Bolivia has made far-reaching changes in its education system. Other Voices, Other Teachers, analyzes how the education reform has been applied in the classroom and provides information about certain aspects that are not always taken into account when reform policies are designed. Educational institutions, teaching advisors trained by the Ministry of Education, universities, and even international experts have used this study as a point of reference. Bolivia's education reform is one of the most ambitious in Latin America because of its intercultural approach. The research for reading and writing in Quechua, is it necessary, was done in Chuquisaca. But the study goes beyond the local level and looks at how the cultural background of school children and teachers affects education in practice. Lots of people in Bolivian society were against the introduction of intercultural bilingual education, and I think the research has been useful in identifying the pros and cons of this sort of education. San Francisco Javier University used the results of the study to train 1,150 school heads. Since last year, the Faculty of Humanities has been giving a new course as part of the teacher training degree. It deals with interculturalism, and this study is one of the textbooks.
Tiene que ver con la interculturalidad, y uno de los contenidos es esta investigación.
Over the past 10 years, the research teams and PIEB have held 700 events around the country to disseminate results involving 36,000 people. PIEB also has its own imprint, which publishes 10 series and the specialist journal Tincazus. Despite the fact that 66% of the Bolivian population is under the age of 30, there is not much research focusing on young people's lives. Young People in Democracy is therefore a valuable study of young people's deep disenchantment with politics, which could also explain their major role in the recent social turmoil, when the children of democracy clearly expressed what they really feel about the last 21 years. High-Class Snobs, a study of the cultural identity of elite young people in La Paz, takes us into the world of those who will inherit economic and political power in Bolivia. The study sparked heated debate about the group's lack of social awareness, given the leadership roles they will sooner or later play in running the country. Being Young in El Alto looks at a very different group. The heirs of the Aymara culture are rebuilding their identity in response to discrimination and a capacity to organize to fight for what they want. This is a factor that we identified in our study as a potential strength, which later became evident in the street protests and how they set their objectives. Young people are a priority group for PIEB. By providing training and research practice, the program sought to create the conditions for the emergence of a new generation of researchers. The University for Strategic Research in Bolivia, UPIEB, rises to the challenge of training and producing knowledge for development.
Nace del interés de quienes integramos el PIEB.
The university was set up because all of us in PIEB wanted to continue contributing to the country and the regions, not just through scientific research, but also through postgraduate courses for development researchers.
La formación a nivel de posgrado de investigadores para el desarrollo.
PIEB University trains professional researchers, university lecturers, and specialists in different fields.
Creo que a diferencia de las
I think it differs from other universities and academic institutions. Our education here prioritizes developing students' theoretical and conceptual skills, but all the research is also aimed at responding to the needs of the subject
group.
La
investigación está dirigida a responder a las necesidades del grupo objetivo del que se está investigando.
With the aim of updating the knowledge of those who promote development, the university has signed agreements with different organizations.
Usualmente las universidades
Universities usually develop purely academic ideas. Organizations also develop their own dynamics. Now we've tried to provide a space for the university and the organizations to work together. Collaboration with public universities is also part of UPIEB's strategy. We want to establish a strategic alliance with UPIEB so that with the two universities working together, we can properly train researchers who will later contribute to the community. We have had lots of support from PIEB. For instance, it has enabled us to train 30 lecturers from the university so that in future they can go to train others.
Convertirse en los formadores de otros para que se haga investigación en todos los ámbitos en la universidad.
Institution building is another part of PIEB's priorities. The program has enhanced the work of 58 institutions by transferring research assets. It has also supported 27 libraries, specializing in the social sciences, and strengthened 5 networks of documentation centers, which provide essential support for research work. Since 2003, PIEB has been implementing a high-impact strategy to transfer its experience to other institutions and researchers, inviting them to play a leading role in the autonomous development of research in their regions. One of the most important results of this new strategy has been the creation of an institutional platform in Tarija. If we manage to keep this platform going in future, I believe it will be crucial for consolidating the Departmental Council for Science and Technology. In Santa Cruz, former PIEB researchers have formed the Hatopiando group.
Los propósitos del grupo son básicamente
The aims of the group are basically to put together research teams again, set to work again using all the knowledge, all the skills and abilities we gained thanks to PIEB. But this time around, we want to share this knowledge with other institutions.
Adquiridas gracias al PIEB, pero esta vez expandir este conocimiento hacia otros ámbitos institucionales.
Oruro, Beni, Cochabamba and Sucre are carrying out initiatives in response to this new invitation by PIEB.
Las acciones que el PIEB está tomando para crear equipos de investigación, ¿no es cierto?, en las diferentes regiones del país es absolutamente.
The work PIEB is doing to set up research teams in the different regions of the country is really impressive, and it hasn't stopped after the first project. Now they're starting a second project, which we also want to be involved
no ha parado con el primer proyecto que tenía, sino que ahora ingresa a un segundo proyecto donde también estamos interesados en participar. Estamos participando en realidad como institución.
Bolivia, its people, their problems and their hopes. PIEB is celebrating its 10th anniversary in the knowledge that research can contribute to our society and lay the foundations for Bolivians to better understand each other.